Over the years, the XPS 13 has been updated multiple times, both in a positive way by becoming smaller and slimmer and offering improved screens and hardware, and in a negative way by dumping the connectivity for USB-C only. Much like many of the other modern ultra-portables, the 2022 XPS 139320 is a much bolder update than the previous generations, though, with a unique and potentially questionable set of inputs, plus the expected bump in internal specs, an updated thermal design, an OLED screen option, updated audio, and a higher capacity battery. Is still a premium design entirely made out of CNC aluminum and glass. Dell offers the 2022 XPS 139320 model in two color options, a silver/white variant with a white keyboard, called Platinum, and a dark gray model with a black keyboard, called Graphite. Both look spectacular and are excellently crafted. Very few other ultrabooks come near the XPS 13 series in terms of craftsmanship and attention to detail. However, I still have some nits with the ergonomics of this XPS 13 series. The screens still only lean back to about 130 to 140 degrees, and not all the way back to 180. I've always found this a limitation on my XPS when using it on the lap or in cramped spaces, and Dell have refused to address it over the years. And then there's the fact that the connectivity is USB-C only now, with only a Thunderbolt 4 slot on each side. There's no longer a microSD card reader or a 3.5mm audio jack, as with the previous generations. Heck, not even Apple went as far as removing the audio jack on their MacBook Air. Asus were the only one to dabble with it and took so much heat from reviewers and buyers that they quickly changed their mind and brought the jack back on the more recent updates. Few details come to mind. First off, the keyboard is entirely different from any other keyboards in the laptop space available right now. The layout stretches the entire length of the chassis, which leads to unusually large keycaps, but there's also almost no spacing between the keys. On top of that, the keys have a slightly concave dish shape and only travel 1 mm into the chassis. Finally, Dell ditched the top row of function keys for a set of dual functionality capacity zones at the top of the regular keys. It's impossible to tell how this completely different implementation will affect the typing experience. On a first glimpse, what comes to mind is the butterfly keyboard on the previous MacBooks, but the keycaps are much larger here and the spacing is narrower. Hopefully, the 0.3mm dish on the keycaps offers the tactile feedback and precision that Dell advertised in their release materials. I fear this keyboard might feel shallow and imprecise, but there's no way to tell without using it for a while. We're not attending CES in person this year, so look into other previews for more details. As for the capacitive function keys, they can be switched between regular F and media functionality, with ESC and delete remaining in place between the two modes. Dell mentions that by opting for this sort of thinner capacitive keys they were able to better use the interior space for an improved thermal module, in order to cope with the updated Intel hardware. However, the only other past implementations that come close to this one are the touch bar in the previous MacBooks and the touchscreen function area in a very old ThinkPad X1 Carbon generation. Both Apple and Lenovo ditched those for a standard row of function keys in the meantime. The other aspect that stands out is the lack of a distinct clickpad area on the wrist rest, under the keycaps. And that's because the entire armrest is now a capacitive touchpad area with haptic feedback. In theory, this sounds like a potential winner. You get to click and tap anywhere you want on the armrest, without any rattling or